You're moving to Baton Rouge and you're wondering, should I be moving to Baton Rouge? Well, you're in luck because in today's video, we're going to be going over reasons why you might not like living here in Baton Rouge. And if you're new to the channel, hi, my name is Shawn G. I'm a realtor here in the greater Baton Rouge area. All of my contact information is going to be in the description down below. And with that said, let's go ahead and jump into the video. For my people that live here in Baton Rouge, you know the number one thing I got to talk about is traffic. Now, I think one of the biggest frustrations about traffic in Baton Rouge is that we're not the biggest city, right? We're not the biggest city in America by far. So the sentiment is, why are we a mid-sized city and our traffic is so bad? We're actually ranked in the top 5 of the worst traffic in America. We're ranked right behind Los Angeles, New York, in Miami. So one of the biggest causes of this is a lot of people work in Baton Rouge and they live in the outside suburbs of it. So we see the bulk of the issues of people that are living in Livingston Parish or Ascension Parish or outer suburbs like Zachary or Central. Without traffic, it can be about a 30-minute drive to these areas, some of them more like 20, 25. But once that 4 o'clock traffic starts hitting, that 4 o'clock traffic can easily make that commute an hour long or more. According to that article, we actually lose 62 hours a year to being stuck in traffic. Now, all of this is not lost. We are just obviously behind on the ball when it comes to our infrastructure. So there have been improvements being made. One of the biggest things is the I-10 widening project. They're adding lanes to our interstates and doing their best to alleviate these issues because the city has grown and we can't really handle it. The next reason you might not like Baton Rouge, and it kind of goes hand in hand with our traffic issues, is that the city is not very walkable or bikeable. There are a few little spots around Baton Rouge where it is walkable, or it's kind of as close to as walkable as possible, but for the most part, the city is just not. Which makes a lot of sense because a long time ago when they were building these neighborhoods, a lot of the infrastructure around the country was focused on walking, right? Not everybody had a car, but now that everybody has a car, a lot of the more modern infrastructure updates are focused on driving. So when I say walkability, I am talking about that these neighborhoods and these areas are in close proximity or reasonable proximity to amenities. So some of our more walkable and bikeable areas like mid-city or downtown tend to be filled with tons of amenities. So something they're doing to combat the less walkability and bikeable issues is that they have something called MoveBR. MoveBR is an infrastructure and transportation program that is the biggest program in East Baton Rouge Parish history. Already in mid-city Baton Rouge, where I live, we're already seeing bike lanes and more sidewalks, which I know this sounds funny. I know it sounds funny that I'm freaking out over bike lanes, but they really didn't have much before this. We should see some major improvements soon. Now, for the third reason why you may have some issues living here in Baton Rouge is that we have a ton of bugs. Now, this isn't unique to Baton Rouge. It's actually a statewide thing. We just have lots of bugs and critters here in Baton Rouge, but we also have those same exact issues all across the South. But in Louisiana, it just happens to be, or at least to me, feel like extra bad. If you're buying a house in Baton Rouge, one of the biggest things that we look at in general are termites. And that happens to be somewhat of a prevalent issue here in South Louisiana. Right now it's the spring and we're seeing tons of mosquito hawks, also known as crane flies, pretty much everywhere. I'm working with lots of clients that are coming from out of state and they're looking and we're walking through houses and they're like, wait a minute, this house has a ton of bugs. I don't know if I can deal with it. And I have to reassure them. I'm like, hey, it's just a seasonal thing. These things don't stay year round, which they don't. In the winter, you don't see them nearly as much. But this springtime and this warm weather, yeah, you're going to see some bugs. Not to mention your normal, typical bugs you usually see like ants and roaches. It's not fun, but of course it's super important. If you're buying a house or if you're moving here, it's a good idea to get some kind of pest control or to get a termite contract if you're buying a house. The next reason why you may not like living here in Baton Rouge is that we have some of the highest insurance rates in the country. Unfortunately, we're seeing insurance issues at a couple of different levels. Our car insurance is high, our homeowners insurance is high, some of our flood insurance is high. Now with our homeowners insurance and our flood insurance in areas that are really, really prone to flooding, like areas like Grand Isle or certain parts of New Orleans, the insurance rates have been skyrocketing and doubling and tripling. It's been really rough in a lot of areas. In Baton Rouge, we aren't seeing it as bad, but we have been seeing raises in insurance rates because we don't have as many insurance companies in the state to compete with one another. And on top of that, our car insurance rates are some of the highest in the country. We have plenty of people that move from out of state to Louisiana. They get a car and they start paying insurance on it, and they're like, dude, my car insurance is so expensive. So if you're wondering why your car insurance has been so expensive, I hate to say it, but we don't have the greatest drivers here in Louisiana, unfortunately. It's just a reality of living here. So if you are moving here from out of state, just be prepared for those higher insurance rates, and you may have to factor that into your budget. For the fifth reason why maybe you shouldn't move to Baton Rouge, and this one's kind of preference, the weather. Now, this totally depends on whatever your preferences are. So for me, I do like warm weather, right? I'm just naturally like shorts, t-shirt, that's my jam. So Louisiana's weather definitely takes some getting used to if you're not from here. First off, it's humid. Okay. It sometimes it feels like I'm swimming underwater when I'm just walking outside, right? So our hot summers feel 10 times as hot, at least in my opinion. And our cold winters tend to feel extra cold with the humidity. So it also rains pretty bad out here in Baton Rouge. So it's definitely something to take account for if it doesn't rain where you live. Like if you're coming from California and you're used to those droughts and all that, yeah, just maybe get some rain boots, invest in an umbrella, and just kind of get ready for it. And I feel like we do have pretty distinct seasons. Our summers are just unbearably hot, like I said. We do have a pretty nice spring. We have a pretty nice fall. Our winters do feel short, at least the past few years. It feels like they've been cut in half. Another thing, if you're coming from an area where you are used to the snow and you are used to activities that you do in the snow, like snowboarding, skiing, those kinds of things, you're not going to find that here. You may want to get on a jet ski and go down Lake Pontchartrain or something like that. But that also is a reason why you may have some issues being here. So if you're used to those cold weather activities, you're not really going to find that. In some parts of the country, you have to watch out for different natural disasters, right? So in some parts, it's earthquakes, in some parts, it's tornadoes. But here in Louisiana, we have to deal with hurricanes. And from experience, hurricanes are pretty scary. They're not fun. When they say evacuate, or maybe you should consider evacuating, just go. Don't deal with it. Especially if you're not from here and you want to kind of ride out the hurricane. In general, just not really a good idea. So if you have an opportunity to leave, definitely do it. Another reason you may not want to be here in Baton Rouge is that we have a slower pace. Now, I know some people may be hearing that and go, what is he talking about, slower pace? It's just a slower lifestyle here. It's not Los Angeles. It's not New York. It's not Chicago. It's not one of those big cities. And obviously, there are people that may be watching this video going, yeah, duh, it's not those. But really, if you're used to that faster paced lifestyle, Baton Rouge is a slower pace for sure. Now, if you're living in Louisiana and you are looking for a faster paced living lifestyle, you may find that more in New Orleans than you would in Baton Rouge. So definitely something to keep in mind. Kind of going and working on top of having a slower paced lifestyle here in Louisiana. This is kind of funny, but we also are ranked the slowest talking state. Now look, if you're watching this video going, man, this dude's he's kind of slow at talking. I hear you, okay? I don't know if I fit that. I've been listening to myself talk my whole life, so it's hard for me to say that I talk slow or fast, but don't tell me in the comments if you think that. And for the last reason, for maybe why Baton Rouge may not be the best fit for you, is the crime. So crime and safety here in Baton Rouge tend to be a pretty prevalent issue, and you're really going to see that issue in any mid-sized to large city. Some people may feel very safe in certain parts or in certain areas, and some people may not feel safe at all in some areas. So if you're living in a major city, you should try to do the things that you would do if you're living in a major city to protect yourself, right? So lock your doors, make sure you're aware of all of your surroundings. You should also invest in security systems, security cameras, all of those things. I think they're really important and honestly something you should do no matter where you go. A lot of times I talk to people that have been living here their whole life or people that move here and they may feel safe somewhere where I feel totally fine and have never felt unsafe. So really do your research. You can find crime maps online. You can find all kinds of information about crime here in Baton Rouge and kind of make your own decision. Well, y'all, those are the reasons why you may not like moving here to Baton Rouge. If you're moving here to the city, of course, please feel free to reach out. I would love to be a resource and I'd love to help in any way. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to leave a like, subscribe, and thanks for watching. Peace.